The impossible child. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Queen Zerla stood alone, staring at the glowing screen in front of her. Lines of alien code moved slowly across the display, showing one result: confirmed pregnancy. Zerla narrowed her eyes. She placed a hand on her flat stomach, not feeling anything unusual. But the scan was clear. She was pregnant. Impossible, she whispered. She was an Illyari queen, ruler of a powerful empire. Her people were strong, intelligent, and advanced. But one truth had always remained: Illyari could not breed with humans. Their biology was too different, too incompatible. But the screen said otherwise. Zerla turned sharply and stormed out of the medical room. Her long cloak swept behind her like a shadow. She made her way down the silent halls of the palace, her mind racing. This had to be a mistake, a glitch, a trick. Only one person could be responsible: the human, Daniel. He had been captured 3 months ago during a failed human scouting mission. While the other humans had fought, Daniel had surrendered. He had been calm, too calm. Zerla had spent many hours questioning him. At first, she was curious, then annoyed, then interested. There was something different about him. He never showed fear, not even when surrounded by her elite guards. Now she began to wonder, was that calmness hiding something more? She arrived at the holding chamber and ordered the guards to leave. The doors slid open with a soft hiss. Daniel was sitting cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed, breathing slowly. "Wake up," Zerla said sharply. He opened his eyes and looked at her. No fear, just a calm gaze. "Something wrong, Your Majesty?" he asked with a small smile. Zerla stepped forward, stopping just a few feet from him. "What did you do to me?" she asked, her voice cold and sharp. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "I don't understand." "Don't play games. The scans, they say I'm pregnant." He didn't react the way she expected. No shock, no panic. Instead, he simply nodded. "I thought you might be," he said softly. Zerla's eyes widened. "You knew?" "Not for sure," he said, standing up slowly. "But I felt something change during our last conversation." Zerla's face turned red with anger and confusion. She remembered that night. The guards had turned off the cameras, thinking she was safe. She had come down here after a long day. Tired, frustrated. She had spoken to Daniel for hours. He had made her laugh, made her forget she was a queen, if only for a moment. And in that moment, something had happened. Something she had told herself was just weakness. Now, she wasn't so sure. "This is not possible," she whispered. Daniel took a small step closer. "Maybe not by your science. But life doesn't always follow rules. Sometimes, nature finds a way." Zerla's hands clenched into fists. "If the council finds out, they will destroy you. And they will remove me from the throne." Daniel tilted his head. "Then don't tell them." Zerla laughed bitterly. "You think it's that simple?" "No," he said, "but maybe it's worth it." Zerla stared at him, searching for signs of deception. But there was nothing in his eyes except calm truth. "Why are you not afraid?" she asked. "Because fear doesn't help," he said, "and because I believe this child, our child, is important. Maybe more than either of us knows." Zerla turned away, her mind spinning. She had ruled for years, fought wars, ended rebellions, but nothing had shaken her like this. A child, a human Illyari child. What would it look like? Would it survive? What power would it hold? And what would the Empire do if they found out? She took a deep breath and looked back at Daniel. "This changes everything," she said. "Yes," he agreed. Zerla stepped closer and placed her hand lightly on her stomach again. The screen had said the child was already developing fast, maybe even growing stronger than a normal Illyari baby. She looked up at Daniel. "You will stay alive," she said firmly. "For now, if only because I need answers." Real answers. Daniel nodded. I'll give you whatever I can. Zerla turned to leave, but paused at the door. And Daniel, she said without looking back, if you lie to me again, there will be no second chance. Understood, he said. The doors closed behind her with a hiss. Alone again in the hallway, Zerla touched her stomach once more and whispered, What are you? The Queen's secret. Queen Zerla sat in the center of her private chamber, lit only by a soft violet glow from the crystal walls. No guards, no advisors, just silence and fear. Her hand rested gently over her lower belly. Inside her, a secret that could shake the empire. Her heart beat faster with every passing second. This wasn't just forbidden. It was dangerous. If the council discovered she was carrying a child, half human, half Iliare, she would lose everything. Her throne, her life, and the child's life too. Zerla was not the kind of queen who bowed to fear. She had led armies, destroyed rebellions, stood unshaken before death. But this was different. This was life. A life she didn't plan for. A life that shouldn't even exist. And somehow, she could feel it growing stronger inside her. Faster than normal. Different. She tapped a command panel. Summoned Dr. Karn, private channel only. Seconds later, a tall, elderly Iliare appeared on the screen, his face pale and serious. You ordered silence, my queen. But I must ask again, shouldn't the council be informed? Zerla's voice dropped to a whisper. If you speak of this to anyone, I will end your bloodline myself. The doctor bowed his head. I understand. Have you confirmed the readings? She asked. He hesitated. Yes, my queen. The child's growth is unusual, faster than any Iliare fetus, and the Dina structure, it's not just a blend. It's evolving. Zerla's eyes narrowed. Evolving into what? Something new, he said. Something we've never seen before. Zerla ended the call without another word. She stood up and moved toward the balcony. The city below glittered with light and life. To them, she was a goddess, untouchable, pure. If they only knew. She clenched her fists. Someone would find out. Secrets never stayed buried long in the palace, and she couldn't trust anyone. Except maybe him. Deep underground, in the lower levels of the palace, Daniel sat in his cell. He wasn't afraid. He had expected this. From the moment he had felt her skin against his, he knew something had shifted. She wasn't just a ruler. She was a woman, a soul, one who had never been touched gently before. And now she was carrying a child. His child. The guards never spoke to him. They were told he was a spy, an enemy. But Daniel knew things were changing. Footsteps echoed in the hall. He stood. The door hissed open. But this time, it wasn't Zerla. A new face. General Orvin, commander of the Royal Guard. His sharp green eyes studied Daniel like a weapon. On your feet, the general barked. You're coming with me. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Where are we going? You asked too many questions, Orvin snapped. They walked through winding halls, not toward the Queen's chambers, but away, down, deep into the old corridors of the palace. Daniel's heart began to race. This wasn't a visit. This was an execution. They stopped outside a sealed chamber. 2 guards opened the door. Inside was a surgical table, metal arms hanging from the ceiling like claws. What is this? Daniel asked. Orvin stepped close. The Queen has gone soft. But I haven't. We'll find out what you did to her, even if it means tearing you apart. He raised a hand. But before he could speak another word, the room went dark. Red emergency lights blinked on. A voice echoed through the halls, cold and mechanical. Royal override. Code Zeta 9. Prisoner extraction in progress. A hidden door slid open. Zerla stood there, cloak flowing behind her like fire, eyes burning with rage. Touch him, she said, and you'll never breathe again." Orphan stepped back in shock. "My queen, he is dangerous." "You don't give orders here," she growled. "I do." She walked to Daniel, grabbed his arm, and pulled him out. They ran through the shadows of the old tunnels, guided only by flickering lights. "What's going on?" Daniel asked. "They know," she said breathlessly. "Orphan suspects. He's not the only one. If they prove it, if they get a sample from you or the child, it's over." Daniel nodded. "Then we run." Zerla stopped. "I don't run." "You do now," he said, "for the child." She stared at him, then nodded once. They reached a hidden chamber. Zerla placed her hand on a crystal panel. A door opened to an old ship, her escape plan from years ago, never used. They boarded the ship. Zerla activated the controls. The engines rumbled, but before they could launch, an alarm blared. A single message appeared on the screen. "Royal genetic match detected. Emergency tracking activated." Daniel looked at her. "They know." Zerla placed a hand on her belly, now glowing faintly with energy. "We have no time," she whispered. "They will chase us. They will try to kill us. Then we make sure they don't catch us," Daniel said. Zerla looked at him, really looked. Not just as a prisoner, not even as a human, but as the father of something that could change everything. She gripped the flight controls. "Hold on," she said. The ship shot into the stars. Behind them, the Empire roared in confusion, and somewhere in the shadows of the palace, a message was sent. "The Queen is running. Activate the hunters." Hunted by her own. The stars outside the ship burned like silent watchers as Queen Zerla stared through the cockpit window. Behind her, the capital world was now just a fading blue dot in the void. But even as they escaped into space, her mind couldn't rest. They would follow. They had to follow. No Ilayari queen had ever fled her own palace before. Not in thousands of years. Not with a human. Not with a secret that could destroy the throne itself. She wasn't just a runaway ruler now. She was a traitor, a mother, and a target. Zerla touched her stomach. It was still flat, but warm. Alive. She could feel the child growing, faster than it should. Stronger. Daniel stood near the back of the ship, watching her silently. He hadn't spoken much since they fled. But he didn't need to. His presence was calm, steady, strange for someone who knew death was chasing them. Zerla finally turned to him. "They'll send hunters." Daniel nodded. "How soon?" "Now," she said. "They don't wait. They don't ask." Daniel walked over and leaned beside her. "Do we have a plan?" Zerla glanced at him. "I know a place, an old science outpost on a moon near the rim. Forgotten. Buried. If anyone can help us understand this child, it's there." "How far?" he asked. "2 jumps," she replied. "But it won't be easy. We're being tracked." As if to prove her words, a sharp beeping echoed from the console. Zerla pressed a button. A red symbol appeared. Signal locked. Tracking beacon active. Daniel frowned. "How?" Zerla cursed under her breath. "I ordered all palace trackers removed from this ship." "Maybe it's not the ship," Daniel said. Her eyes snapped to him. His jaw tightened. "Maybe it's me." Deep in the royal command chambers, General Orvin stood before a massive screen showing star maps, pulse trails, and red blinking dots. "Confirm the signal," he barked. A young officer nodded. "Confirmed, sir." Their ship jumped out, but the human's blood carries royal energy now. It's broadcasting. Orvin smiled. "The Queen's child is talking through him." "Orders, General." "Send the hunters," he said coldly. "Bring her back. Alive if possible. But if the child is born." He paused. "Destroy them all." Back on the ship, Zerla dug through a medical kit. "If they mark your blood, we have to scrub the signal." Daniel sat on the floor, shirt off, as she attached scanners to his chest and arms. "Does it hurt?" she asked. "Not as much as palace food," he choked. Zerla gave a dry smirk, but her eyes didn't relax. The scanner buzzed. They were clever, she whispered. They didn't tag you with a chip. They changed your blood. It pulses with trace royal energy. Every breath you take marks us. Can you stop it? Daniel asked. She hesitated. Yes, but it's risky. I've been a prisoner. Now a father. I'll take a little more risk. Zerla worked quickly. She injected him with nanites, tiny machines that would scrub the energy from his body. It would take time and pain. Daniel clenched his jaw as heat spread through his veins. His skin turned red. Sweat dripped from his forehead. Zerla knelt beside him. Just a little longer, she said softly. His hand reached out and gripped hers. She didn't pull away. The ship jolted. An alarm rang. Incoming. The ship's voice said. Eliuri hunter ships approaching. 5 units. Weapons armed. Zerla leaped to the controls. Hold on, she shouted. This is going to be rough. In the cold void of space, 5 black hunter ships surrounded the Queen's vessel like wolves. The lead hunter pilot sent a signal. This is Royal Command. Stand down, Queen Zerla. Return with the traitor, or be destroyed. Zerla answered. This is your queen. I do not answer to threats. They fired. The ship shook violently. Daniel crashed into a wall. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Zerla gritted her teeth. We can't outrun them. Daniel stood, barely stable. Then we outsmart them. He tapped into the nav system. What are you doing? She asked. Something stupid. He set a course for a nearby nebula. A storm of gas and magnetic storms. No hunter would dare follow in without losing their senses. Zerla didn't argue. She hit the engines. The ship dove into the chaos. Inside the nebula, lightning flashed around them. Gravity shifted. The ship groaned. Behind them, 2 hunters followed, but their systems glitched. One crashed into a meteor. The other spun out and vanished into the storm. Daniel grinned through the pain. That's 2 down. Zerla didn't smile. 3 more. But they made it. Barely. The ship exited the other side, sparking, damage, but alive. And the tracking signal. Gone. Zerla checked the scans. They lost us, she whispered. Daniel fell back onto the floor, exhausted. How's the child? He asked. Zerla placed a hand on her belly. Then her eyes widened. Something's changing. She helped Daniel to his feet. We're close to the science moon. We'll land there, find help. Daniel nodded. And after that? Zerla looked at the stars ahead. Her voice was quiet but firm. We find out what this child really is. Far behind them, in the ruins of the storm, the last 3 hunters floated quietly, watching. One of them sent a single silent message back to the Empire. Target escaped, but the child, its awakening. The ancient bond. The moon was dead. Its surface was dry and cracked, covered in ash and forgotten ruins. No light, no air, no cities, only silence. Queen Zerla landed the ship slowly, careful not to stir too much dust. The engines hissed, releasing soft waves of heat into the cold, lifeless air. The silence outside was so deep, it felt like even time had stopped here. Daniel looked out the window. You're sure this is the place? Zerla nodded. This moon holds what the Empire chose to forget. Why? She stared into the distance. Because the truth was dangerous. Inside the ancient ruins, their boots echoed as they walked down cracked stone steps. The air was thin, cold. The walls were carved with strange shapes, half alien, half familiar. Zerla carried a scanner in one hand, her other resting on her belly. The child inside her was awake. Not just alive, but aware. She could feel its emotions, curiosity, wonder, and something deeper. Daniel walked beside her, his face calm but alert. He felt it too. The air had weight, like invisible eyes were watching. After minutes of silence, they entered a large chamber. In the center was a platform made of glowing crystal, half buried in dust. "This is where it started," Zerla whispered. "What started?" Daniel asked. Zerla wiped dust from the wall and revealed a mural. An image of a queen, not unlike her, standing beside a tall figure that looked human. They both had their hands on a small glowing child between them. "This shouldn't exist," she said. Daniel stepped closer. "What is it?" Zerla spoke slowly. "A myth. A story from before the First Empire. It was erased from our records. Only a few of us ever heard it." "Tell me," Daniel said. Zerla nodded. "They called it the Bond. Long ago, one of our queens met a being from another world. He was strange, but kind. She didn't understand him, but she felt something. Something real." "Love?" Daniel asked. Zerla hesitated. "Maybe. But more than that. Connection. It was said their union created something new. Not just a child, but a bridge between races, a new path. But the council feared it. They destroyed every trace." She looked around the room. "Except here." As Zerla stepped onto the platform, it lit up. Lines of golden light crawled across the stone like veins waking from a deep sleep. Daniel stepped back. "What's happening?" Zerla's eyes widened. "It's reacting to the child." Suddenly, a beam of light shot down from the ceiling and surrounded her. She gasped but didn't move. It didn't hurt. Instead, she saw visions. Memories. A queen holding hands with a human. A war starting because of fear. A baby glowing with light. A council shouting, ordering the child destroyed. The baby vanishing into a field of stars. And then, silence. The light vanished. Zerla collapsed. Daniel rushed forward and caught her. "Zerla, are you okay?" She opened her eyes slowly. "I saw it. The child lived. It escaped. It grew. And its blood still moves through the galaxy. It was never lost." Daniel helped her sit up. "What does it mean?" Zerla whispered, "Our child isn't the first, but it may be the last chance." Meanwhile, deep inside the moon's core, machines long dormant began to hum. Old eyes opened. Energy pulsed. The moon was waking. Above the moon, 3 stealth hunter ships arrived in orbit. Their scans couldn't find Zerla's ship. It was hidden inside the ruins, but they detected the energy spike. General Orvin himself stepped out from the lid ship. He stared down at the moon through his visor. "They're here," he said. His second-in-command frowned. "Should we strike?" Orvin shook his head. "Not yet. Let's see what wakes." Back in the ruins, Zerla and Daniel walked deeper into the temple. The walls glowed brighter with every step. They entered a room filled with mirrors, each one showing a different version of Zerla. One was a queen. One was a warrior. One was a mother holding a child with glowing hands. "This place knows you," Daniel said quietly. Zerla nodded. "And it's trying to show me who I can become." They reached a pedestal at the end of the hall. On it was a crystal sphere, pulsing softly. Zerla touched it. The room changed. A voice spoke, old and broken. "You carry the bridge. The bond has returned. Protect the seed, or the stars will burn." The walls shook. Dust fell. The temple groaned. Daniel grabbed her arm. "Time to go." They ran back through the halls as the ground trembled. Outside, the moon cracked. Beams of light shot into the sky. Orvin's ships saw it. "Fire," he ordered. Missiles launched. Daniel and Zerla reached the ship just as the ground behind them exploded. The ship lifted off, dodging fire, flying between collapsing towers and ancient light storms. Inside the cockpit, Zerla shouted over the alarms. "This moon was not just a temple," she said. "It was a key. And now they know." "What now?" Daniel asked. Zerla stared at the stars ahead. "Now we find the others. The ancient bloodlines. We're not the only ones. If we don't unite them, the Empire will destroy everything. Behind them, the moon cracked in half and began to collapse. And far in the shadows of space, something else woke up. Something watching. Something waiting. Sacrifice and survival. The stars stretched across the black sky like cold, watching eyes. Queen Zerla's ship drifted silently through space, its lights dim, its engines tired. Inside, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Daniel sat on the floor, his back against the wall, breathing hard. His body was weak. Ever since the escape from the moon, the pain hadn't stopped. The nanites inside him were still working, still scrubbing the royal signal from his blood. Every second felt like fire under his skin. Zerla stood at the control panel, her hands trembling slightly. Not from fear, but from something deeper. The child inside her was changing again. It wasn't just growing. It was reaching out. She could feel its thoughts, soft, confused, curious, and scared, like it knew something was coming, something dangerous. Daniel looked up. How far till the next safe system? 3 hours, Zerla said, checking the screen. But they'll be waiting. Daniel forced a smile. They're always waiting. Zerla looked at him. He was pale, sweating, but still trying to smile, still trying to be strong. You should rest, she said gently. You should sit, he answered, nodding to her stomach. You're carrying a miracle. Zerla sat beside him slowly. The ship hummed around them, a quiet sound like breathing. Do you regret it? He asked suddenly. She turned her head. Regret what? This. Us. The child. Everything. Zerla didn't answer for a long time. Then she whispered, I regret not knowing sooner what love could feel like. Daniel smiled. I don't regret anything. They sat in silence. But far behind them, in the cold shadows of space, death was following. Aboard the lead hunter ship, General Orvin stood at the window, his eyes locked on the fading trail of Zerla's vessel. Prepare the harpoons, he ordered. His second-in-command hesitated. The Queen is no longer Queen, Orvin snapped. She chose the child. She chose weakness. Now she will burn for it. And the baby, if it is born, Orvin said coldly, it will become a weapon. We can't allow that. He turned away from the stars. Send the execution team. Hours later, Zerla's ship approached a small abandoned station floating in orbit around a dead planet. The place was old, scratched by time, forgotten by the Empire. They docked slowly. Inside, the station groaned as if waking from a long sleep. They moved carefully, Zerla in front, Daniel behind her with a stolen blaster. The air smelled of rust and ash. We just need power, Zerla said. Enough to scan the child again. Maybe understand what it's becoming. They found a control room with flickering lights. Zerla worked fast, activating the ancient systems. The scans began. Glowing blue waves passed over her body. And then, the station's doors blew open. Smoke filled the hall. Black armored soldiers rushed in, Illyri elite hunters, silent and ruthless. Daniel fired first, but he missed. He pulled Zerla behind a steel wall. Blaster bolts flew past them, burning holes in the floor. They found us, she shouted. Daniel looked at her. They'll never stop. Zerla clutched her stomach. The child was glowing, bright light pulsing from inside her skin. They want the baby, she said. Then they'll have to go through me, Daniel said. He kissed her forehead once, then stood. No, she grabbed his arm. Zerla, he whispered, if you die, the child dies. But if I die, maybe you both live. He stepped into the fire. The hunters turned on him instantly. But Daniel didn't run. He charged. He used the light inside him. What was left of the royal signal? He triggered it. His body exploded with blue fire. The hunters screamed, blinded by the light. The station shook. Walls cracked. Alarms rang. Zerla crawled toward him, but he was already falling. She caught him just before he hit the floor. His face was pale, his eyes were dim, but he smiled. "You live," he whispered. "No, no, no, don't you dare leave me," she cried. Daniel touched her belly. The child inside glowed brighter, as if answering him. "You both are more than I ever imagined," he said softly. Then he closed his eyes. Zerla screamed. The light from her body exploded outward, blasting the hunters back. The station cracked open, but somehow Zerla stood, alive, burning with power. The hunters fled, not from fear of her, but fear of the child inside her. Back on the ship, hours later, Zerla sat alone with Daniel's body beside her. She held his hand. Silent tears fell. Then the child moved, and a voice, not hers, whispered in her mind. Not gone, just changed. Her eyes widened. She looked down at her belly. "Daniel," she whispered. The light inside her pulsed, and far across the stars, ancient systems woke again. A long-forgotten temple lit up, and a message echoed across space. The bond is alive. Birth of something new. The stars outside the ship moved slowly, as if holding their breath. Queen Zerla sat in silence. Daniel's body rested inside a crystal stasis chamber, glowing gently. She had preserved him using the last of the station's energy. Not to bring him back, he was gone, but to keep him close, to honor his sacrifice. She touched the glass with trembling fingers. "You saved us," she whispered, "but it's not over." Her voice shook. Her strength was fading. The child inside her was growing too fast, feeding off something ancient, something powerful. It no longer felt like a child. It felt like a force. Every night, Zerla heard its voice in her dreams, soft, yet ancient, speaking in words she didn't understand, showing her visions from the stars. Burning skies, shattered planets, armies kneeling before a glowing figure. And always, at the center, her child. The ship reached a hidden world, a forgotten place buried in old myths. It was known only as the Cradle. The planet didn't appear on maps. It had no cities, no beacons, no orbiting satellites. Yet, something called her there. The ship landed in silence. Zerla stepped out into a field of tall blue grass. The wind sang, and the sky above was purple with slow-moving clouds. In the distance stood a massive tree, its branches reaching into the sky, glowing with soft light. Its trunk was carved with symbols older than the Empire. Zerla walked slowly. The child inside her moved again. She gasped and dropped to her knees. Pain. Deep, sharp pain. But not ordinary pain. This was awakening. Her skin glowed. Her eyes turned silver. Her hands dug into the soil. The wind stopped. The tree opened. Inside the tree was a warm, glowing chamber. Strange lights floated around like tiny stars. The walls pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Zerla lay on soft roots that wrapped around her like arms. She screamed. The birth had begun. But this was no normal birth. The chamber responded to her cries. Light grew brighter, and visions appeared around her. Scenes of the past. Daniel laughing. The palace guards falling. The temple breaking open. And then a vision of the future. A child standing on a throne of light, surrounded by both humans and Iliari united. Zerla's body arched. The child emerged, not crying, but glowing, bright, calm, eyes wide open. Its skin was smooth like hers, but its heartbeat echoed like Daniel's. It had no hair, only light. It didn't scream. It watched. And when Zerla held it, she heard it speak. Mother. Not from its mouth, but from her mind. She stared at it, tears streaming down her face. You can talk. I can feel. Zerla cradled it. What are you? Hope. Outside, the tree shook. Light poured into the sky. Across the galaxy, strange things happened. Old machines came alive. Forgotten systems activated. And everywhere, people, human and Eliari alike, felt a sudden warmth in their chests, as if something greater had just entered the universe. Hours later, Zerla sat beneath the glowing tree, holding her newborn child. Its eyes never blinked. It was watching the stars. "I don't know what comes next," she whispered. "Change." She looked down. "Will you bring peace? If they choose it. And if they don't." The child looked at her and smiled. "Then I will make them." Zerla's breath caught in her throat. "Are you still a baby?" The child tilted its head. "I am a beginning." Meanwhile, deep in the Empire, General Orvin stood before the High Council. A projection of the birth had appeared in the air, light pulsing from the cradle world. Counselors shouted, argued, panicked. "It's not a child. It's a weapon," one screamed. "No, it's a sign," another whispered. Orvin raised his hand. "We must destroy it before it grows." The oldest counselor stood. "Fool," she said, "you cannot kill what destiny has already chosen." Back on the cradle world, Zerla looked at the sky. The stars seemed different now. Closer. The tree whispered around her. Her child had stopped glowing, but its presence filled the air. It slept. But even in sleep, the world listened. Zerla looked at the tiny face, peaceful and strange. "Your father would be proud," she said softly. She placed a kiss on its forehead. "We will protect you, whatever it takes." But deep in her heart, she knew, one day he would protect them all. Hair to the stars. The child no longer glowed, but everything around him did. On the cradle world, the air had changed. The trees bent toward him. The sky hummed when he opened his eyes. Light followed his steps, even when he did not move. Queen Zerla held him close as she stood on the hill, overlooking the glowing tree. He was small, peaceful, and silent, but when he stared into her eyes, she felt him speaking, not in words, but in visions. Images of ships, armies, peace, war, stars falling, galaxies joining hands, and always a throne. Not one of power, but one of unity. Zerla knew the child could not stay hidden forever. The Empire would come. And so would the humans. Back in the Empire's capital, the High Council was burning with fear. The oldest counselor had died in her sleep. Whispers said her dreams had been filled with stars, and her last breath was a single word: "He's coming." General Orvin stood at the center of the council chamber, fists clenched. "We can still stop him," he growled. "He's just a child." "No," said a younger counselor. "He's a bond." "A mistake," another hissed. But Orvin's voice silenced them all. "Send the skybreakers, burn the cradle world. If we can't kill the child, we erase the planet." On the cradle world, Zerla watched her child play in the glowing grass. He was smiling for the first time. Then the sky darkened. 5 giant warships appeared in orbit, casting long shadows over the ground. Zerla looked up. Her heart didn't race. She had known this day would come. She turned to the child. "They're here." The child looked at the sky and nodded. From the lead ship, General Orvin gave the command. "Fire." 12 light spears shot from the sky. They struck the planet, but nothing burned. The spears stopped midair, frozen in space, suspended like glass. Back on the planet, the child lifted one finger. The earth responded. Roots rose like arms. Wind became walls. The air itself bent to his will. Zerla stepped forward, holding him tight. She walked calmly through the field as the sky screamed. "No more hiding," she said. "We faced them together." They reached the peak. And then the child rose. Not walked. Rose. Light wrapped around him like wings. His eyes shone white. No pupils. No emotion. Just purpose. He lifted both hands. And the warships began to shake. General Orvan's ship cracked down the middle. Alarms rang. The crew screamed. Orvan shouted into the comm, "Pull back. Retreat." But it was too late. The child didn't destroy them. He unmade them. Slowly, gently, the ships turned to dust in the sky, floating down like ash. Not fire. Not war. Change. The child floated back down to Zerla's arms. "You didn't kill them," she whispered. "They were afraid," the child said in her mind. "But I am not." Weeks passed. A small ship landed on the Cradle World. Inside were humans, ambassadors, scientists, some fearful, some hopeful. They bowed when they saw Zerla and the child. "We heard the stories," one said. "Is it true?" Zerla nodded. "He is both, human and Ilari." "More," she said. "He is what comes next." Months passed, and across the galaxy, something strange happened. Ilari stopped attacking human ships. Human colonies welcomed Ilari visitors. A single message was shared between both worlds. "The child lives." People whispered his name. Some called him the Bond. Others called him the Light. But to Zerla, he was still just her son. He laughed now, played, spoke. But sometimes he would stare into space for hours, unmoving, seeing things no one else could see. "What are you thinking?" Zerla once asked him. He looked up, eyes glowing soft gold. "The stars are calling." 1 year later, a new city was built, not on a planet, but in space, floating between the two worlds. It had no weapons, no leaders, only people, gathered under one symbol: a mother, a human, and a glowing child standing hand in hand. And above it, written in every known language, "We are one." On the roof of the Unity station, Zerla stood quietly, watching the stars. Her child sat beside her, now taller, older, growing faster than anyone else. "Do you miss your father?" she asked. The boy nodded. "But he's not gone." He pointed at the stars. "He's out there, watching, guiding." Zerla smiled. "And you?" she asked. "What will you do now?" He turned to her with calm eyes. "Everything."